Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. I am very glad that this microphone is working, at least from what I can see in my editing software, because I have been having some issues recording this intro. I mean, like, this is my 20th time through right now, and I am a bit nervous that everything is just going to fall apart on me. The first couple of times, my audio was picked up by my very cheap webcam, so all the audio came through there, and I'm feeling like Mr. Beast today, so I will give you a snippet of what that audio sounded like.
Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be going over something
Yeah, so that was a big whoopsie daisy there. That was not fantastic. And then my mic just started cutting out randomly while I was recording. So hopefully now everything is fixed and I'm able to just record normally. That would be greatly appreciated. But anyways, this is a topic I haven't quite covered before, and it was actually suggested to me by one of you guys. So if you're watching at home and you want a chance to be featured on one of my videos and maybe be the entire subject of my video like this person here, feel free to comment down below what you guys would like to see, and I will pick someone at some point to inspire a video in the future. With that being said, this video is going to be covering scary urban exploration experiences. Prior to this video, I didn't know too much about what this topic even was, but after researching and filming for this video, I can definitely say that it is going to be one of my favorite to maybe come back on in the future because this subject is super unique. Anyways, I just wanted to quickly comment on that, and it's nearing Halloween. I'm trying to find scarier videos to push out as we get closer towards that date, so just let me know what types of content you guys would like to see. I also wanted to quickly apologize and explain why I haven't uploaded in a little bit. I've got work and school going on right now, so it's just a little bit difficult to get content out on a strict schedule like that. I thank you guys for staying patient, and I appreciate the support as always. And with this pretty long intro out of the way, let's get into the first story. We went urban exploring in a haunted mental hospital. Some ghosts can hurt you. St. Daniel's Mental Hospital was haunted. Everybody in that town knew that, especially Century Manor, the old house at the back of the property, which had stood there for 150 years, longer than any other building on the grounds. Maybe that's why it was such a popular place for kids to go urban exploring. We all wanted to prove that we could brave going in there, not just to ourselves, but to each other. That's why Teddy and I went in there, I guess. It was just partly boredom, the product of a late August day, with the end of summer vacation looming ahead in 2 weeks. There was a feeling between the two of us, left unspoken, that we had wasted the summer. Everyone else in class would be talking about trips to Europe or cruises in the Caribbean, while Teddy and I would be left without a story to tell between the two of us. My parents were supposed to take me to the beach 1 week in July, but it had been thunder showering, so we stayed home. Our camping trip had likewise been canceled due to a family illness. Teddy's family had even fewer planned summer events, but they had been likewise plagued by misfortune and last-minute cancellations. His parents' motto seemed to be the same as mine: "We'll make it up to you next summer." And that left us feeling antsy and annoyed as we meandered around the perimeter of the mental hospital grounds, the place that we were not supposed to venture into. Our families lived in the neighborhood across the street from the century-and-a-half-old asylum, so we knew about the lore of our facility better than anyone. But our parents were much more concerned by the tangible threats posed by patients who wandered the hospital grounds, largely unsupervised. "I know what we should do today," Teddy said suddenly. "Let's go explore Century Manor. I heard there's a way to get inside." Part of me wanted to say no, to make up some excuse, but another part of me was desperate for adventure and a tale to tell in September. Everyone else in class would have a vacation story, but we would have a ghost story. "Alright, let's do it," I agreed, following him as he stepped foot into the forbidden grounds of the asylum. I hurried after him and we stayed close to the tree line, hoping to avoid detection. When we got to Century Manor, I looked up to see the old building windows, staring down at us, like sleepy eyes. Its dark, ancient exterior was falling apart in places, the trim moldy and rotting. Tiles from the roof had slipped off and lay on the grass, turning it brown beneath their weight. "So how are we supposed to get in?" I asked, looking at the steel bars on all of the windows. "How about the front door?" Teddy said, smiling, walking towards the entrance. I couldn't believe it. The old wooden door should have been tightly locked, but instead, it was hanging open, swaying gently in the breeze. Weird, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be locked, I said, following Teddy towards the entrance. It was dark inside, almost impossible to see past the first few feet. My friend took a few tentative steps into the house before being swallowed up by the shadows. Hey, wait up, I called after him, but there was no indication that he'd heard me. Looking down, I saw a loose brick lying on the porch of the old house. I picked it up and used it as a doorstop, hoping it would prevent anyone from closing the door and sealing us inside. Suddenly, I was beginning to realize that was a real possibility. Teddy, I'm not sure about this, I said, stepping into the dark house. It took my eyes a few seconds to adjust. I blinked and looked around to see the old house was dingy and falling apart, even worse in the exterior. The ceiling to my right was bulging and looking ready to cave in at any second. The floors creaked noisily with each step I took, as if ready to break. Let's go upstairs, Teddy said, seeming bored already with the main level. Despite his eager attitude, I felt like there was something immediately wrong with this place. It was like a weight on my soul, crushing my heart and making it difficult to breathe. Don't you feel that? I asked. Feel what? But before I could answer, Teddy was already climbing the stairs, going up to the second level. The stairs squeaked and strained with each step. I saw a mouse scurrying up ahead on the main level, and hurried to catch up with him, taking a nervous glance back over my shoulder at the front door, which was still hanging open, like a door to a trap, about to make a snap shut. The two of us climbed the stairs and explored the second floor, but of course, Teddy wanted to keep going. There was a third floor, in the old manor, and he wanted to see that too. So far there was nothing to explain the uneasy feeling I was getting, but the sensation was growing stronger the closer we got to that third level. I don't like this, I told Teddy, as we came to an old, gray wooden door covered in graffiti, including a few pentagrams. Let's go back, okay? This doesn't feel right. He looked at me like I was being a scared little kid, ruining his adventure, which I guessed I was. I felt a little bad about it, but I couldn't ignore the feeling I was getting. It was becoming overwhelming. Okay, you big baby, this is the last room, then we'll leave, he said, pushing the door open as I told him to stop. I had a strong suspicion that whatever was giving me these negative feelings was just beyond that door, and when I opened it, I saw I was not wrong. The scene playing out on the third floor was like something out of a horror movie, except this was real life. A girl who was dressed in century-old clothing stood before a small fire, which was burning at the center of the room. She was giggling as the pile of kindling she had lit grew brighter and the fire burned hotter. I heard her chanting some dark incantation under her breath, and her eyes had rolled back. Suddenly her voice was no longer that of a child, but something of a much deeper level. Much more evil. What the hell? Teddy yelled, snapping me out of my terror momentarily. At least he could see it too. If not for that, I wasn't sure what I would do. Would you let go of my arm, man? What is your problem? That was when I realized. He couldn't see any of it after all. The little girl and the fire, it was all invisible to him. I had heard that this place was haunted, but maybe not everyone was capable of seeing the phantoms who resided here. Just as I had that thought, Teddy pulled his arm out of my vice-like grip and began to march into the room. You're so weird, dude. There's nothing in here. I was frozen in place, unable to scream, as he walked straight towards the fire in the center of the room. The little girl was now levitating a few inches off the ground, her eyes still white and rolled back, but now she had a mad grin, spreading wide across her face. She began to laugh as Teddy strode into the fire. It took him a few seconds to realize what was happening, like someone who had set their hand on a stove burner, only to realize that it's turned on. But then in an instant, he was lit up like a torch. Teddy turned into a blazing inferno as the little girl's laugh turned into a screeching cackle. I felt something cold rush through me a second later, and then saw two women in white and black habits, like those worn by nuns. They were putting out the fire and praying, holding a Bible up into the air and pulling the little girl back down. She settled gently to the floor as the fire went out, and I realized Teddy had also been extinguished. as if the fire existed in some other time, and I was the only one who could see it and them. Running out of that room, I raced down the stairs to find a security guard at the door, pulling the brick doorstop out of its place. "Who keeps opening this door?" he was saying to himself. I yelled at him to stop and told him to get help. My friend was in trouble. "Not again," the security guard muttered, probably thinking I couldn't hear him. "They really need to tear this old place down before it kills anyone else." Luckily, Teddy survived the event, but he's been in a coma for quite a while and was unable to defend me during the court proceedings. I was forced to tell the judge what had happened by myself, and he wasn't inclined to believe me. Pyromatic ghosts aren't exactly the best legal defense, as my exasperated lawyer will tell you, but I wasn't going to lie, and I wasn't going to admit to something I didn't do. I didn't hurt my friend, and I didn't leave him there to die. I just hope Teddy wakes up one day soon. I know he'll tell them I'm innocent. Someone smuggled in a cell phone for me so that I could share my story. A true friend. I just hope Teddy can clear my name, or I'm gonna be in this asylum for a long, long time. I'm an urban explorer. What I found in an abandoned cinema was terrifying. I usually work alone, finding my way into abandoned buildings and looking for anything valuable. It's not a sustainable way to make money in these parts, but I gotta pay rent somehow. About a week ago, a friend of mine wanted to get into urban exploring, and I showed him the ropes. He didn't do amazing, but what can you expect from someone who's new to something you've been doing for years? I should get to the point though. Yesterday, my best friend, who I had taught mostly everything I knew, aka David, had run into a group of urban explorers like me who were going to look for valuables in an abandoned cinema not too far from where I lived. My friend had mentioned it to me, and well, they invited me to come with them, and they were probably gonna ask me to join their group if I was good enough for them. I had never really worked with people, despite its dangers, because I had never found anyone who was, well, eager to do it. David, he only recently got into it. It's not like I'm going to carry around dead weight while I struggle to make ends meet. Now that I could possibly get a group of people who share similar interests, I felt excited, happy, and a bit nervous. The big thing on my mind was, would I have enough valuables at the end of it? Selfish, I know, but I'm not perfect, especially if I'm looking through abandoned buildings for valuables. Though, at the end of this, I'll never work with anyone ever again. Not after what happened, that is. It was about 6:30 p.m. The sun had set, and I made my way to a place near the abandoned cinema to meet up with these people. I was surprisingly early, and my taxi had gotten me here quickly. After about 30 minutes of waiting, people finally started to show up. A short and chubby guy climbed out of his truck. He had greasy dark brown hair, and his face was covered in pimples. He wore jeans and a white greasy t-shirt, and his friend quickly followed him out of the truck. The guy's friend was about my height, wore sunglasses despite it being dark, and wore dark clothing, and a hoodie that had a bunch of tools shoved in it. A nice car pulled up, and a girl who seemed to have just recently gotten a buzz cut stepped out, and her car drove off. I realized she was a redhead who had a skinny build, but was taller than everyone here. She wore black sweatpants and a black shirt, similar to the guy with sunglasses, but she also had a wristwatch, and had a camera hanging from her neck. We all introduced ourselves to each other. The short chubby guy was Brian, the guy with the sunglasses was Big Q. He wouldn't tell us his real name, and the redhead was Rachel. The last one to show up was David, 40 minutes late, but it's not like everyone else was much better. Why did you all take at least 30 minutes to get here, I asked, looking around at the people before me. Me and Big Q ran out of gas, so we had to refill, Brian said, as if refilling gas would normally take 30 minutes. I don't know about anyone here, but this is my first time doing this stuff, and my parents weren't fans if you catch my drift, Rachel said, brushing the hair out of her eyes. And you, David? I asked, giving a death stare to my friend. Okay, I forgot. Geez, David said, raising his arms up as if to defend himself from my stare. I sighed. Whatever, shall we continue or start telling each other our star signs? I asked sarcastically. Without another word, everyone followed Big Q and Brian as they were the ones who invited everyone. We made our way to some kind of sewer drain, and as Big Q opened it up, everyone began descending into the pipes below. It was dark, and every step was followed by a loud creak of nearby pipes. I was a bit worried the pipes would fall, or maybe crash down onto us, but they held pretty well. Rachel took out a flashlight from her pocket along with Big Q, and we made our way into a decently sized hole in the pipes and what was connected to it. Me, Big Q, and Rachel were able to make our way through easily, but David and Brian were having a bit of trouble. David had his leg stuck, but with an odd angle tug, we got him through, but Brian was simply just too fat to get through. We squeezed until he had bruise marks on him, but it wasn't enough. In the end, we agreed he could look through the pipes and see if there was anything useful, as well as a lookout in case someone gets suspicious of sewer drain being open. Because Brian didn't have a flashlight and Big Q and Rachel were leaders, not followers, I'm pretty sure it'd kill them not to take the lead. Though me and David were fine with just hanging in the back and placing landmarks so we didn't get lost. As we made our way through the hole in the wall, we fell down a couple feet into a hallway with tattered red rugs softening our fall. The place looked like a check-in, and we saw several ticket booths with the glass shattered and vines somehow curling around everything near the leaking water fountain. These things don't have sunlight. How are they even alive? David asked, astonished at the thriving vine population. If we aren't careful, they're gonna take over the world next, I joked, but was quickly jabbed at by Big Q. Don't scare people, not when we are in abandoned places, that are breeding grounds for paranoia. You want him running off when a light falls down and potentially getting lost? No. Good. Because so far, funny man, David's been more helpful than you, Big Q lectured, making sure to lower his sunglasses, his green eyes broadcasting how serious he was. I simply nodded, and we started looking around for anything that could be solid for a decent amount of money. Rachel went off on her own, probably to look in the bathrooms. Me and David looked around near the ticket booths, and Big Q was fiddling with the doors to the cinema. Find anything? David asked me, as he ripped off a couple of vines from the shattered glass. Nah, but be careful of the glass. I almost scratched myself a couple of times, I advised, reaching into one of the ticket booth compartments and pulling out a bunch of tattered tickets and a couple of coins. Are those quarters? David asked, turning to look at my hands. Pennies, I said in a dull tone as I stood up. Where are you going? David asked, also standing up. I'm gonna go give these to Brian. I kinda feel bad for the guy, I confessed, walking towards the hole in the wall. David shrugged and got back to looking through the ticket booths. I grunted as I ran and jumped, barely getting a grip on the hole in the wall and pushing myself up and through the hole, my skin screaming at me as I felt sharp metal scraping across my chest and arms. I rolled into the pipe, narrowly missing a collision with my head and the edge of the pipe. I got up and dusted off my knees, and used the moonlight from the outside to look around. Brian was nowhere to be seen, but I saw some footprints leading into the darkness ahead. He's probably searching for stuff in the pipes, I muttered to myself, following the footprints created from the dust and debris. As I followed the footsteps, I noticed a lot more dents appearing on the pipes the further I went. Brian was probably just messing around though, or it could have been from rats or something. I found an intersection and went right, following the footprints as they became easier yet harder to see due to the light dimming and how recent the footprints were. He must have been walking really slowly, because it looked like he was trying to be quiet or something. Then the thought crossed my mind that maybe someone had noticed the sewer drain was open, and Brian was trying to make a sneaky escape and backstab us in the process. Now I was pissed, and then I picked up the pace, rushing through the pipes to find Brian. Unbeknownst to me, the dents in the pipes were becoming bigger and more bizarre, but I didn't notice that until the trail led to a dead end. The pipe seemed to have been ripped in half, because as my head peered out of the gaping hole that ripped through the pipe, I realized that on the other side of the gigantic hole in the pipe, the other side seemed to have no dents and no footprints, though it was hard to see, so I'm not sure if that was true or not. As I was looking through the giant hole, I heard something move below. I slowly looked down to see some sort of worm or centipede or something like that. I wasn't sure. It was white and bulbous and looked like an extremely bloated centipede. The only problem, other than the giant insect, was that where its face should have been was the top half of a human being, which was only recognizable by the sunken eyes and open jaw-dropped face. It had no teeth or hair, and the thing that was a grayish-white color. It wore a half-shredded shirt that said the word Kitty on it. Disgusted and horrified, I threw up and alerted the monster to me. It quickly darted towards me, its dark crimson legs quickly gaining on me. I ran away from it, The pipes behind me were shredded, and that's when I realized what had happened to Brian. He had probably been searching for valuables and made too much noise, and the thing had rammed into him from outside the vents and ripped him to shreds, and left that 6-foot hole in the pipes. As it gained on me, I divided into the hole and into the pipes, and fell down into the check area. I yelled for the rest of the group and heard them all talking in the cinema. I ran towards the now unlocked door that Big Q was messing with a while ago, and ran inside, slamming the door behind me and facing the bewildered faces of Big Q, Rachel, and David. "Dude, why the hell are you screaming our names? Are you trying to scare us?" Raven asked, accusing me off the bat. "No, we need to go now," I yelled in protest, grabbing David and motioning for the other two to follow me. "Dude, we aren't gonna follow you," Big Q said, planting his feet in defiance. "Please, you have to listen to me. There's some kind of monster. It ate Brian and it's after me," I rambled but was cut off. "Enough with your bullshit. You've been trying to scare me and now everyone here," David said, looking at me disappointed. Big Q rolled his eyes as David lectured me and Raven walked over. "Wait. Guys, he might be serious. I saw the fear in his eyes as he ran in here," Rachel said right as the monster rammed through the cinema wall, scooping up Big Q in its jaw. That's when I realized how big Kitty was. Its mouth was gaping and huge, big enough to swallow Rachel in one bite. Rachel stared in shock, and David screamed as I grabbed them both and began running down the cinema stairs. I watched as the chairs and seats were flung into the air, as Kitty chased us, one of them nearly hitting me in the head and almost tripping Rachel. We made our way toward the stage and ran across the dark screen, hoping to confuse Kitty, and it worked. Kitty slammed into the large screen as the heavy screen fell forward. Me, David, and Rachel made our way out of the room before we were crushed along with Kitty. We all collapsed into the staff room where we ran into. "What the hell was that thing?" David asked, terrified. "I don't know, but we need to get the hell out of here before..." Rachel started but was cut off as Kitty let out a deafening roar and was destroying everything in the room behind us. We all silently ran up to the staff room staircase, headed towards the check area. It was flawless, as Kitty was still rampaging in the cinema. We were already making our way through the hole in the wall. "I'm going first," I said, taking a couple of seconds to run and jump through the hole, with slightly more effort than last time due to the tension in the air. Rachel followed suit, and as David made his way through the hole, Kitty made its way back up to the check-in and saw us escaping. David's leg got stuck on a piece of metal, and he desperately tugged against it. "David, hurry up," I yelled frantically, grabbing at David. "Trevor, I don't want to die," David said, grabbing onto my arm and tearing up. "No, you're not going to die. Rachel, help me pull him up," I yelled frantically. Rachel tried helping me, but there wasn't enough room in the pipe to have two people helping David. "David, you're gonna be alright, I promise," I yelled as I tugged at David with all my might. "Don't make promises you can't keep," David said, sniffing and sobbing silently. "What? David, no! David!" I screamed as I watched Kitty tug at David's legs, ripping him back through the hole, and I watched as David was engulfed in Kitty's gaping maw. I screamed hysterically, reaching for David as Rachel tugged me away and dragged me toward the sewer drain. "Let me go! David!" I screamed again, desperate for a response. Rachel pulled me out of the sewer drain and quickly called a taxi and dragged me a couple of blocks away from the sewer entrance. I was dead silent as rain poured down from above. A couple of minutes had passed and Rachel slid me her phone number. "I'm sorry I wasn't able to do more," Rachel said mournfully, daring to look at my devastated face. I stared at her wristwatch, which showed 9:31 p.m. All it took was 2.5 hours to lose my best friend. "We can keep in touch. Call the police," Rachel tried to say, but I cut her off. "What are the police gonna do? We would already get arrested for doing this, and like they're gonna believe us when we say there's a damn monster down in the abandoned cinema. We didn't even get anything out of this," I yelled in frustration at her. Rachel was silent as I put my hands in my pockets. I felt the pennies from the ticket booth. Fat tears rolled down my eyes, and as the taxi arrived, I pulled up my soaking wet hoodie and silently parted ways with Rachel. This was all my fault. David would still be here if it wasn't for me. If I had declined, he surely wouldn't have gone without me. We did everything together, after all. I didn't get any sleep in my apartment, and when I finally pulled out my phone to distract myself, all I could do was type this out and post it here. I don't know even what to do anymore. But at this point, what is there to do? I can't ask anyone for help. Not the police, not my parents or my family. All I have left is pennies. That's when I noticed a soaked piece of paper in my pocket with Rachel's phone number. At least I have a stranger, I thought to myself, sighing, and I dialed her number. And that's going to be it for this one. If you guys enjoyed this style of content and enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe, hit the like button, and the notification bell, as it all helps this channel's eventual goal to get to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate your guys' patience on my upload schedule, and I hope you guys understand that I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to get the best videos uploaded possible for you guys. With that all being said, that's going to wrap up this week's video, and I will see you guys next week. See ya.